We are continuing in the book of John, and we are in John chapter 11. And one of the things I've realized is the older I get, I realize that life tends to give us sometimes more questions than answers. Now, I give you a warning. Shelby's family is here. That's her sister and her mother. First of all, yesterday was Mamaw's birthday. That's Shelby's mom. So can we give it up for Mamaw? Mamaw's name is Gloria, in case you wanted to know that. And then Shelby's older sister, her name is Laura. And our kids used to call her Lor back when they couldn't pronounce her name. And that stuck. But the reason I'm giving you that warning is because it's going to be like there's another couple Metcalfs in the building. I said a little something, and Laura said, yeah, amen. And she white, so I mean, like, it's gonna be a good Sunday. Always good to have the family in the building. Like many of you, we go through life and we collect questions. Questions to our challenges, questions to our problems, existential questions, questions to the meaning of life, question to the meaning of certain experiences that you have. Most recently, Shelby and I went to the movies. We're movie fans, and we went to see The Odyssey. Now, I'm a huge movie fan, and I'm a Christopher Nolan fan. And one of the things that happens if you are a Christopher Nolan fan is that you usually leave the theater with more questions than answers. Only Christopher Nolan film guys will get that, guys and girls. But life is the same way. We tend to collect more questions than we do answers. And oftentimes, our questions can be answered with more information. If we get the right information and categorize it correctly, then we can come to a conclusion about our question. Some questions, however, require experience. That the only way you get the answer to the question is by experiencing it in life. Someone told me once, you don't know what it's like to be a lead or a senior pastor until you are a lead or a senior pastor. Someone said before that you don't know what it's like to have kids until you have kids. You don't know what it's like to be married until you are married. Some questions are only answered through experience. And then there are the other questions, much deeper questions that experience and or information can never satisfy. And that's where we find ourselves in John chapter 11. John chapter 11 is the pivotal point of John. John chapter 11 is probably the most famous passage that you know in the New Testament. There's obviously a ton of them, but this is the passage where Jesus himself raises a guy from the dead. We have been journeying through the book of John, and we have been seeing Jesus do miracle after miracle after miracle. We've seen Jesus tell everyone who he is, and then follow up by showing who he is. In John chapter 11, this miracle meets us with existential questions, which my talk today is simply this: 2 questions, 1 answer. Matter of fact, look at your neighbor and say it out loud. Look at your neighbor and say, 2 questions, 1 answer. Now turn to the other side. We don't want to make them feel bad in church in case they're a visitor, but you do it every week. Come on, look at them and say, 2 questions, 1 answer. 2 questions, 1 answer. John chapter 11, we find ourselves, the context is this is Jesus's final miracle in John, at all period. It is Jesus' statement by raising Lazarus from the dead. This miracle is done in a town called Bethany. Shelby and I, several years back, had the privilege of going through Bethany. It's so small that you don't want to stop. Come on, somebody. Somebody said it was like Fresno. I don't know about that, but if you live in Fresno or you were born there, no shade. I'm just stealing someone else's line. Come on, somebody. Bethany, however, is important because Bethany was on the road from Judea. And that's important because during this time, just before the Passover, literally thousands of people were making that journey. And that journey means that thousands of people would have heard about or witnessed this final miracle just 90 days before Jesus himself would be put to death. This is how significant this is. Lazarus being raised from the dead is a preview of Jesus himself being raised from the dead. Matter of fact, if you're new here and maybe you're just kicking the tires of faith or maybe you're just coming and hanging out, you need to know it's a pivotal passage because the entire thing, the entire reason we're here, Christianity, faith, the thing that we believe, not that we are perfect, but Jesus is perfect. And the reason we are here on this Sunday morning is because the Savior of the world who created the world and spoke everything into existence with only his voice gave his life in exchange for us. The Bible says that he was perfect and sinless and that he died, but he didn't stay dead because on the third day, scripture says that the stone was rolled away and the 3-day dead body of Jesus came out again. And this is why we come to church. I know it's fun to hear music, but that's not why we come. I know I'm entertaining some weeks, but that's not why we come. Don't clap to that because then you'll make me sad. We definitely don't come to hear you, preacher. We come because Jesus rose from the dead, and this miracle is a preview of that. Let's jump in. John chapter 11. Verses 3 through 6. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Verse 5, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. If you're a Christian, you're a follower of Jesus, you've been in church, you've heard this passage before. And so I'm not gonna dive into all of the movements and everything that's going on. I'm just gonna try to highlight some things that are obvious and then maybe some things that are not obvious. One of the things that jumps off that's very obvious is that if Jesus knew, Jesus loved, and he had the power to, and Jesus waited. He knew, he loved, he had the power to, and Jesus waited. It doesn't seem like those things go together. The scene is that Jesus is doing ministry. He's out and about. He is on his way somewhere. He's not at Bethany. Bethany is where Mary, Martha, and Lazarus live. And Lazarus is getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And so Martha sends Jesus a text message. And I have to do this stuff because I lose you. I can tell when I'm losing you. Like we are like 6 minutes in and you're always like, when is this over? Somebody's like, oh, Jesus had a phone? Oh, text message? Martha sends Jesus a text. And notice what she says. Jesus, the one you love is sick. Now, we would normally think that Jesus' response would correlate with the text message. At least something like, on my way, be there ASAP. I'm coming, I'm tied up right now. But no, what she got was bubbles, nothing. Bubbles, nothing. Bubbles, nothing. Jesus doesn't respond. You guys are, y'all are in it today. I appreciate the response. Y'all are getting after it this morning. He does not respond to her. And these four things don't seem to go together. Jesus knew what was going on. Jesus loved them, and he had the power to go and do something, but he waited. Because if he knew, and if he loved, and if he could, then why didn't he go? Which leads us to our very first question. Jesus, what are you waiting for? Like, if you've ever read this story in the Bible, it's one of the most confusing texts in the Bible. And even when you study it deeply, it takes some time to get some understanding. But if you step away from just reading it as a story in the Bible and try to place it into your own life. Jesus, what are you waiting for? He knows, and he spends more time there than he should. There's an old saying that we used to say in church, and you've probably heard it. Jesus is never late. He's always on time. How many of you have heard this? But keep your hands up. Look around. Okay. A lot of you have heard this. Most of us are. Jesus is never late. He's always on time. Now, first of all, the premise is flawed. The premise is flawed because Jesus created time. So we don't actually know if he's late or not. Because he's operating in his own time, which is not our time. However, in our time, I've come to the conclusion that Jesus is always late. He's always late. I mean, is everybody else notice this other than me? Every time I'm like, God, I need you to show up and do this thing. He's like, yeah, bubble, nothing. Jesus is always late, it seems like in our lives. Is my microphone going in and out? Oh, okay. Let's try the other one there, back there, sir, if we can. I don't know, maybe my batteries. Jesus is always late. Every time I need him to do something, it seems like he's always late. If you were to survey your life, you could apply it to several different circumstances. You could apply it to, God, I thought you were gonna give me a better career or a different job by now. Jesus, what are you waiting for? You could apply it to your relationships. God, I thought you were gonna help heal, restore, bring together, mend the gap, heal broken wounds and broken hearts. I thought you were going to solve this situation by now. Jesus, what are you? I thought my kids would come to know Jesus by now. I thought our kids and our family would come back together after a mild time that we were divided for whatever. Fill in the blank. You were divided because you had different opinions on politics. You were divided because you had different opinions on how to raise kids for whatever reason. But you're thinking, Jesus, I thought you would bring our family back together now. Jesus, what are you waiting for? And not only does it seem like a common theme, we often assume because he's not acting, or at least we assume that we can't see anything, that he's not acting, that he's not working, that he's not doing anything. But John wants us to see something different. John wants us to see that Jesus is not waiting, Jesus is working. He's not waiting, he's working. Here's an important principle that I just want you to hear. Make a note, write it down. If you're a Bible carrier, put it in your phone. Do whatever you need to do. Remember this. He thought it was better for him to do what he does, rather for him to do what we think he should. I had one person over there. Thank you for that. What looked like a delay was actually God's design. Jesus wasn't reacting to the situation. He was orchestrating the situation. And the Bible has a word for that. The word is called providence. Everybody say this word with me. 1, 2, 3. Providence. Jesus was orchestrating the situation. Shelby and I, we've been on vacation. And one of the things we did on vacation was we bought some art. we were in San Francisco, and we ran into this artist display. It was incredible. It was beautiful. And we sort of circled around. You know, when you see something, you look at it, you're like, ooh, I like that. And then you leave, and you come back again, and then you leave, and you come back, and then you're like, how much is that? You know what I'm saying? So we found this art that we really liked, and we found out that this artist was a local artist. And the thing about the art is that it just wasn't beautiful. Thank you, sir. Give it up for Dave. Give it up for Dave. It wasn't that the art was beautiful, just beautiful. It was that the art was it was amazing how it was constructed. We were looking at this beautiful picture. Then we found out that the artist had taken vintage windows from historic buildings that were torn down in San Francisco, and that he had used the windows to create this art. And not only that, is that he had painted the art backwards. In other words, that when you're looking at it, it's a beautiful painting, a beautiful picture, a beautiful composition. But the way that he orchestrated it was that he started on the back. He started his brushstrokes on the back of the painting. And every brushstroke had to be applied in reverse from the front. And as he painted it from the reverse to the front, when you looked at the back, it looked like garbage. Looked like trash. Our granddaughter, Jade, she picked up this probably from her dad, but every once in a while, she says this phrase, trash can. This looked like a trash can. And what he would normally paint first, he had to paint last. And slowly, from the front, the painting came into view. However, if you watched him as he was painting backwards, it looked confusing and it didn't make any sense at all. But because he was the artist, he was in complete control of what was happening. This is what God calls providence. And the reason this is important, because if you don't know that God works and operates in providence, your entire life will be you looking at the back of the painting, trying to make sense of what God is doing in reverse. What's interesting here is that providence, the providence of God, the most concise definition is this: the providence of God, God's ongoing sovereign work by which he preserves, governs, and wisely directs every person, event, and circumstance according, watch this, to his perfect will. Watch, accomplishing his eternal purposes for his glory and the ultimate good of his people. This is what we call the providence of God. This is why this is important. Because in the middle of this story, which can be superimposed on the middle of your story, even though God hasn't shown up, it doesn't mean that he's absent. Even though in the situation in your life that you are believing for, that you are praying for, that he hasn't intervened, it doesn't mean that he isn't working. It's the providence of God. And the providence of God is at work in the story, the same way as your story. Any delay, I'm gonna just try to work this, because if I pick up this handhold, I'm gonna get real black real quick, and I'm gonna be like, it's just not gonna work. And y'all are gonna be like, what happened on Sunday? I don't know. We don't know. So let's just pray. Let's just pray we can make it work for a little bit. He may delay, but he never delays his purpose. Jesus never delays his purpose. The providence of God we see all throughout the Bible. But I think it's important for you to understand what it is and what it is not. Let's take a look at the next couple slides. There should be like a grid before that, like with a what it is, what it's not. Maybe not. Yeah, there you go. Providence does not mean, watch this, that everything is good. Most of you, if you're Bible scholars or Bible people, you would know this. There's a passage, Romans chapter 8, verse 28. We know that all things work together. And sometimes we push back against that verse because we think, well, not everything is good. Providence is not saying that everything is good. Providence is not saying that we're robots, that we're just kind of in God's will and he's just in a plan and we're just kind of going along and he's directing our traffic. No, it doesn't mean that prayer is unnecessary. Providence doesn't mean that our choices don't matter. Providence doesn't mean that God causes evil. Doesn't mean that. Next slide. But what it does mean, providence does mean nothing is wasted. Nothing surprises God. Nothing is outside of his control. Nothing can frustrate the purpose of God, and God is always at work, even when we can't see it. Why is this important? It's important for you to have this framework and this theological truth in your soul. Because if you don't have this theological truth in your soul, you will walk around thinking that something you did in 1967 is still affecting you today. You know, well, my life would be better if I just never would have done that thing, if I never would have gotten in trouble, if I never would have cussed out my boss. Yes, you have consequences to the actions that we do because that's life. But watch this. The tricky thing about God is that God is ordering things based upon what he desires, not what you desires. And here's the cool thing about it is that when you make a mistake, God's like saying, oh, I can use that. See, you think when you make a mistake, God's like, pfft. You think when you make a mistake, God's like, well, you're just a horrible person. You think there's a boardroom in heaven and God is watching you and the angels are watching you and Jesus is sitting right next to God and you make a mistake and you screw something up, you make a horrible decision and you do something bad and God and Jesus are like, this joker, trash can. And it's gonna follow him. Well, you see, I was gonna make his life good, but look what he did in 1967. I was going to make his life good, but look what he did to his kids. Look what he did to his family. No, that's not how it works. If there was a boardroom in heaven, it would look more like this. That you make a mistake, you do something that you shouldn't have done, or you just don't know, you're just trying to figure out life. Because we all did the best we could with what we had, and the boardroom would be like, he sees on the screen that we make a mistake or we go the wrong direction, we make the decision, and then Jesus and God says, I can still work with that. See, that was a good line. Maybe I went too fast. When he sees us make a mistake, he says, I can still work with that. Why? Because it's the providence of God. The providence of God says, I didn't cause it, and I didn't necessarily want it. I did allow it, and I can use it. The providence of God says, watch this, that he's always working. Watch this quote from Charles Spurgeon, one of the great preachers. It says this, remember this, had any other condition been better for you than the one in which you are, divine love would have put you there. See, we forget, and we think that our life is a culmination of everything we've done. And that makes sense. And in some ways it is. But it's not only that. It's that and what God desires. It's not just you made a decision to take that job and you made a decision to marry that person and you made a decision to have those kids. It's that you made those decisions and then God stepped right into the middle of it. And he says, I thank you for taking that job. It's like, I wouldn't have necessarily did that, but I can use it. And I saw you fell down, but I'm going to lift you up. And I saw you make a mistake, and I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to make sure that everything works together, not for your good, but for my good. Is anybody in the building? Can I liberate us? Can I take like a minute and a half and liberate us for a second? Quit carrying around garbage. Quit carrying around all the trash of your past, of what you did and what has happened to you. Now, one of the ways that happens is you might have to sort through some things. You might have to get some counseling. You might get some help. You might have to get into a small group. There may be a process for you to do this, but some of you just need to stop thinking about some stuff. Some of you need to stop putting some weight on your shoulders about what you did 1952, back when Moses was around. Let yourself off the hook. Now listen, do different next time. I'm not saying let yourself off the hook, do the same thing, because I'll be doing that sometimes. Watch out. Let myself on the hook, and I put myself right back on the hook. Come on. No. Turn towards God. God is never absent. He's never surprised. And here's the most important one. He's never without purpose. God is never without purpose. If the providence of God is true, and it is, the events in your life that seem random are not. They are with purpose. The challenge is we are not looking for the purposes of God in our life. We are looking for our desires in our life. And as long as we're looking for our desires, God's purpose will not be evident. And when God's purpose is not evident, we struggle more because we think the reality of our life is the only reality. But there are two realities happening at once. See, God is always working on two levels. He's working on the level that you see. This morning, it's 11:05. You see me, I see you. He's working on this level. I would hope in some way God is shaping us, challenging us, transforming us as we're in church together as a church family. He's working on the level we see, but he's also working on the level that we don't see. There are a million things happening at once, and we only see one perspective. Jesus said, I'm not waiting, I'm working. So if he's not waiting and he's working, then what is the application for us this week? Learn to trust in God's timing. Matter of fact, you can write it down, you can put it in your notes. You can make this a prayer this week. It's going to be a prayer for me this week. God, help me learn to wait on your timing. Help me learn to wait on your timing. Help me learn to be patient in what you're doing behind the scenes. Help me learn to understand that you are doing something that I cannot see. You're doing stuff I can see, but most of the work you're doing, I cannot see. Help me to trust your timing. Verses 17 through 21, watch what it says. It says, on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem. This is just a side note. It's kind of a nerdy thing. It doesn't make any difference, but I just need to say it because I studied about it and I thought it was cool and I'm geeking out on it. It says, now Bethany was less than 2 days from Jerusalem. And he was 2 days away and he waited for 2 days, which means if Jesus would have left right when he got the text message, he still would have been dead. Why? Because it's the providence of God. Because this didn't happen because it was happening to Lazarus. It was happening because God needed to do something in the midst of it. It was happening because of the providence of God. Now, that's just a side note. If you're a real nerdy Bible person, you enjoyed that. Come on, keep going. Verse 19, it says, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. Verse 20, when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him. But Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Martha is hot. Martha don't be playing games. Martha's like, Lord, she the older sister. She like, Jesus, we've been waiting on you, dog. Where you been at? Sounds a little bit like she's like, casting blame on him. I think it's the opposite. I think she's just saying, I know who you are. I think there's something else at play here. Martha has no idea about what's about to happen. We've read the book, we see the story. She didn't. But she does know that Jesus is in the business of healing sick people. She's seen him do it. So then she has this correlation that had you been here, Jesus, because I've seen you heal sick people, you would have healed Lazarus and he wouldn't have died. So I think it's just confirmation of what she knows about Jesus. But I would also say this, that she knows the truth, but she doesn't know the whole truth. Because she doesn't know that not only does he heal sick bodies, she doesn't know that he raises dead bodies. She don't know that yet. And here's why this is important to us. I think most of us, me included as the preacher, we know most of the truth about Jesus, but there's some things that we just don't believe yet. Well, he can do that, but he can't do that. Well, he can fix that couple, but he can't fix me. He can heal that sickness in that family or that family member, but he can't do that for me. He can help that guy recover from his past mistakes, but he can't help me because I'm too far gone. See, all those people who call themselves Christians, it's because they're not intellectual. Of course, he can do stuff for people who are like not intellectual and they're just like all full of emotions and blind faith. But Jesus cannot save me because I'm an intellectual. I'm smart. I'm a VP. Because most of us have things that we know about God, Jesus, and the Bible, and things that we don't know yet. And because we don't know them yet, we can't believe them yet. And this is where Martha is, which begs the second question. What are you looking for? Martha, Mary, Lazarus, all here in the text, and they're all looking for three different things. Martha is looking for answers. Bro, where you been? What are you doing? Why didn't you come? Mary is looking for comfort. You see, Jesus shows up, the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. They got two different things, same experience. Martha got, hey, I'm God. Don't you remember I'm God? Mary got, I'm sorry, cries. Lazarus is looking for life. Joker dead. And he represents all of us that find ourselves in seasons of life where we can't rescue ourselves. Three different people looking for three different things, and the same person shows up. My question for us, what are you looking for this morning? What did you come in here looking for? We all came looking for something. We came looking for a good time. Is it going to be fun? Sing a few songs. Jesus be the name. Jesus be the name. Jesus be the name. Gives all the glory. Some of y'all just like, I just came to worship. I just came to worship. I ain't got no problems, although you lying. I just came to worship. I just came to hear a sermon. I don't want to hear the songs. I don't want to hear no announcements. I'm about the word of God. I want the word. But what's on the deeper level? What did you come here looking for today? My entire life, I've been looking for healing. And I feel like I'm relatively far down the road. Healing from my past mistakes and past failures, my current mistakes and current failures. Healing from just what it means to be a human, healing from what it means to be a broken individual, healing from losing my father, healing from not always being a good dad and not always being a good husband. If I were to sum up the thing I'm looking for in life, wholeness. The Bible would say that's peace, shalom. I'm looking to make sense of my present and my past. And I'm looking to get a clear picture of the future. What are you looking for this morning? Maybe you walked in this morning and you were looking for your marriage to be restored. Maybe you walked in this morning and you're carrying a level of grief that no one understands and no one can comprehend. Maybe you walked in and you are completely exhausted from life. 100% exhausted. You are worn down and you are worn out. Maybe on the down low, you're looking to be healed of pride. A lot of us struggle with pride, thinking we're right, we're the best, we got all the answers. Maybe you're here this morning and you've just absolutely stopped believing that God can do anything for you. But you walked in looking for something. And Jesus, verse 25, says, I am the resurrection and the life. He says to Mary, he actually says it to everyone, I am the resurrection and the life. I feel like God just dropped this in my soul the last few days. God shows up on the scene and he answers the question. Every question. The questions of my soul, the questions of your soul. Next slide is what he says. You're looking at what you're looking for. And I think this is one of those weekends where I needed that, and you just get to overhear it. You're looking at what you're looking for. God, I'm trying to find peace in my life. You're looking at what you're looking for. I'm trying to find resurrection in my life. You're looking at what you're looking for. I'm trying to find hope. I'm trying to get my dream back. I'm trying to get peace. I'm trying to overcome this anxiety. I'm trying to get my finances right. I'm trying to get my life right. I'm trying to bring my family back together. I'm trying to do all of these things, God. I'm praying for, I'm believing for. And the thing I wanted the most died. You're looking at what you're looking for. He is the resurrection. And my fear is that we would consistently put our faith on the shelf somewhere. And we would dabble along in all this other stuff. Well, when I get my money right, when my marriage is right, when this is right and that's right, then life will be good. That's a load of crap. And we're like, yeah, we know. No, we don't. Because we keep doing the same stuff over and over and over and over again. And I used to think that my grandmother and my mom were crazy. Because they says, well, we got Jesus, that's all we need. I'm like, but clearly it's not. Because the electricity got cut off, last week, bro. So clearly we need some more stuff. Sitting up here in the dark talking about Jesus is all we need. Wake up. Until I begin to live a little bit more life. And I begin to realize that every question comes back to the same answer. That when I can truly find my identity in him, when I can find peace in him, when I can find hope in him, here's the thing, I may ask him for something and he says I should, and he may do it and he may not, but as long as I got him, I got everything I need. So I wanted to close our service a little bit different. There are those of you that are here this morning in a couple different categories. All of us are in a couple different categories. We're waiting on a miracle. We're waiting for God to do something. I mean, fast forward, you know the end of the story. Jesus rose from the dead. We're waiting on the miracle. Feels like your miracle is dead, in the tomb, stones in front of it. You're here this morning, you're waiting on a miracle. You're here this morning, and you're in the posture of Martha meeting Jesus at the curb. You feel like you missed a miracle. I prayed for that thing and it didn't happen. Pray for my friend, they still passed away. Pray for my finances, they got worse. Pray for my mental health, still struggling. Waiting for a miracle, you feel like you missed a miracle. If you are in that category this morning, I want to close our service by praying over all of those things. So here's what we're going to do. Some of our team, our prayer team and staff, and prayer volunteers are going to come to the front. And as they come to the front, in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand if you're in need of any sort of prayer. And let's not patty cake around this morning. Let's not be too cool to be like, oh, everything's fine in my life. Oh, I got to hurry up and get to milestones, and my reservation is at 11:45. You should learn by now, quit making them so close. You should learn. Push that joker back to 12:15. You'll be safe. You should have learned that by now. But I want to take time for us to call on the resurrection and the life. Because the reality is he's still in the business of answering prayers. And he's still in the business of healing broken hearts. And he's still in the business of giving our hopes and our dreams and our futures back. So as our team comes to the front, if you need prayer this morning, on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to stand up and make your way towards the front. Don't be shy about it. We'll take as long as we need. We'll be here. And if you absolutely have to go, that's okay. You can go. But we're going to take some time to pray. And then we're going to just close in a worship song. I was prepping this morning, and I felt like an impression that this weekend, for many of us, is going to be a turning point weekend. We're going to look back to this weekend, and it's going to be the weekend where that man, God showed up and did something crazy. He did something special. He did something really cool in my life. So let's take time this morning to pray. So I'm going to ask everyone around the room to stand. And if you are in need of prayer, on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to step out of your role, make your way to the front, and we're going to spend some time in prayer this morning, and then we're going to close out in worship. And if you have time and space this morning, just hang in there with us and let's see what God does. And even if you feel like you don't need prayer, God may do something in your soul while we are worshiping and while we are praying. So on the count of 3, if that's you and you need prayer for anything, I'm going to ask you to step towards the front. 1, 2, 3. If that's you, please come forward. All across the room, come forward. All across the room. Waiting on a miracle, you need God to do something special. You feel like you missed a miracle. You feel like you need God to heal a broken heart. Waiting on a miracle, feel like you missed a miracle. Feel like you need God to heal a broken heart. If that's you this morning, I'm going to ask you to come to the front. We'll take as long as we need to pray. If you can, just hang in there with us. It won't be a tremendous amount of time. And we're going to close in worship together. Let's pray together.